The boy was 11 years old and he was holding the last thing he had left in the world. Half a granola bar, still in its wrapper, slightly crushed from being in his jacket pockets since Tuesday. He stood on the corner of Meridian and Fifth, just outside the glass doors of the Hargrove Financial Building, watching a man in a gray suit sit down on the cold concrete steps and put his face in his hands. Nobody else stopped. The lunch crowd moved around the man the way water moves around a stone, quickly, without looking down, but Milo stopped. He was small for 11, with a gap between his front teeth and sneakers that were a size too big, because Grandma Betty bought them that way on purpose, said he'd grow into them by spring. He had a backpack with a broken zipper and a library book about ocean animals tucked under his arm. He had exactly $1.40 in his pocket, which was supposed to be bus fare home. And he had that granola bar. The man on the steps was crying, not quietly, the way adults usually do when they're trying to hide it. His shoulders were shaking, his briefcase sat beside him, still clasped shut like it had been set down in a hurry. Milo stood there for a moment. He looked up the street, then back at the man. Then he walked over. "Sir," he said. The man didn't look up. "Sir, are you okay?" A long pause. Then the man lifted his face, and Milo saw that he was older than he'd looked from across the sidewalk. Maybe 60, with silver at his temples and deep lines around his eyes that suggested a life spent either laughing very hard or worrying very much, and lately it had been the second one. "I'm fine," the man said automatically, the way people say it when they are absolutely not fine. Milo looked at him for another second. Then he reached into his jacket pocket and held out the granola bar. "It's peanut butter," he said. "I was saving it, but I'm not that hungry anymore." The man stared at the granola bar. Then he stared at the boy holding it. Something shifted in his face, a crack in something that had been sealed a long time. "Son," he said slowly. "I don't need. You can just take it," Milo said. "It's not a big deal." It was, of course. It was the last food he had until he got home, and home was 45 minutes away on the bus, and he'd already used the bus fare. But the man on the steps looked like he needed it more than Milo did, and Milo had learned from Grandma Betta that you don't calculate those things, you just give. The man took the granola bar. He held it in both hands like he'd forgotten what to do with something offered freely. "What's your name?" he asked. "Milo, Milo." The man said it quietly, like he was setting it somewhere safe. "I'm Warren." Warren Alcott had not sat on a sidewalk step in 40 years. The last time had been 1984, outside a gas station in rural Tennessee, when he was 22 and his car had broken down and he'd had $11 in his wallet and no way to call anyone. He'd sat on the curb and eaten a bag of peanuts from a vending machine and thought, "This is the bottom. Things will get better from here." And they had. God, they had. He'd built Alcott Capital from nothing. 17 employees and a rented office in 2001, 400 employees, and a building with his name on the lobby directory by 2018. He had a house in Greenwich, a vacation home in Hilton Head, a daughter in Portland who sent him birthday cards with gift cards inside, because she didn't know what else to get him, and an ex-wife in Scottsdale who was happier without him, which he understood because he'd been easier to love from a distance for most of his adult life. He sat on the steps of his own building and did not go back inside because he couldn't. Because 20 minutes ago his doctor had called with results from a biopsy Warren had convinced himself would come back clear. It hadn't. The word malignant was still sitting in his chest like a stone he'd swallowed. He ate the granola bar. It was good. Chewy, a little sweet, slightly crushed. He ate it slowly, the way you eat something when you're not sure what you feel yet, and the boy, Milo, had sat down on the step beside him without being invited, which would have irritated Warren an hour ago and somehow did not irr, Warren asked. "Why are you out here?" Warren asked. "Shouldn't you be in school?" "It's 3:15, Milo said. "Right?" Warren looked at the sky. He hadn't noticed. "Where are you headed?" "Home. My grandma's apartment. It's on the 34 bus line. Where's your mom?" The question came out before Warren could think about whether it was appropriate, but Milo didn't flinch. "She went away when I was 4, the boy said simply. Not passed away, not died, just went away, which Warren suspected meant something more complicated than it sounded. "It's just me and Grandma Bet now. She works the morning shift at the hospital, laundry services. She gets home at 4. Warren looked at the boy beside him, the 2 big sneakers, the backpack with the broken zipper. "You walk home alone every day?" I take the bus. Usually. Milo paused. I'm gonna walk today. How far is that? 45 minutes, maybe. It's fine. I walk fast. Warren was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I'll drive you. Milo looked at him the way kids look at adults when they're deciding if something is a good idea or a terrible one. It was a serious, careful look that most adults didn't give children enough credit for. You're not a weirdo, are you? Milo asked. Despite everything, the biopsy, the stone in his chest, the untouched briefcase at his side, Warren Alcott almost smiled. No, he said. I'm just a man who owes you a granola bar and a ride home. Grandma Bet's apartment was on the 3rd floor of a building on Caldwell Street that had a broken elevator and a lobby that smelled like pine sol and old carpet. Warren pulled up to the curb in his car and watched Milo unbuckle his seatbelt. Thank you, Milo said. For the ride? Thank you, Warren said. For the granola bar? Milo nodded like they were settling a fair trade. He opened the door and then paused, half in and half out of the car. Are you going to be okay? He asked. The way he said it, direct and without pity, reminded Warren of someone. He couldn't place who. I don't know yet, Warren said honestly. Milo thought about this. Grandma Bet says that's okay. She says sometimes you don't know yet, and that's still an answer. He got out and closed the door and disappeared into the building without looking back, the way kids do when they've said what needed to be said and don't feel the need to perform it further. Warren sat at the curb for a long time. He thought about what Milo had said. He thought about the granola bar and the boy eating nothing so that a stranger could eat something. He thought about Grandma Bet at the hospital laundry at 4 in the morning and a child walking 45 minutes home in 2 big shoes. He thought about his own daughter, Camille, who was 31 and lived in Portland and sent gift cards, and whom he had missed, not in death but in presence, for most of her childhood. Missed her school plays because of quarterly earnings calls. Missed Thanksgiving 2009 because a deal was closing in Singapore. Missed the years in between, one by one, until she'd stopped expecting him to show up, and that had become its own kind of normal. He had not been a good father. He had been a successful one, by the metrics he'd chosen, but not a good one. His phone buzzed. His assistant. Warren looked up at the building. 3rd floor. He counted the windows. He didn't go to the meeting. He came back the next afternoon. He wasn't sure why. He told himself it was because he wanted to make sure the boy got home safely. A weak excuse, since Milo had clearly been getting himself home for years without assistance. But he parked on Meridian Street at 3:10 and waited, and at 3:18 Milo came through the glass doors with his broken zipper backpack and his library book, and he walked directly to Warren's car like he'd been expecting it. You came back, Milo said, getting in. You're not surprised. A little. He buckled his seatbelt. Grandma Betty says people usually don't come back. Warren pulled into traffic. She sounds like a pessimist. She sounds like someone who's been disappointed a lot, Milo said. Then, matter-of-factly, I got a different book. He held up the new library book, Deep Ocean, The Unknown World. I finished the first one, Milo said. Did you know that the anglerfish makes its own light? In the dark, where nothing else can see, it just glows. By itself. I didn't know that. I want to be a marine biologist, Milo said. Or an astronaut. Grandma Bet says pick one, but I don't see why you can't do both. You can't really do both, Warren said. The training alone. You could do space research about the ocean, Milo said firmly. They're both about exploring places humans haven't been yet. It's basically the same job. Warren was quiet for a moment. You're not wrong, he said. Over the next 3 weeks, Warren drove Milo home 11 times. He wasn't sure when it had become a routine, or when Milo had started meeting him at the curb instead of waiting to be flagged down. He wasn't sure when he'd started looking forward to 3:15, the way he used to look forward to closing a deal, with a specific, grounded anticipation that felt cleaner than ambition. He told Milo about the diagnosis on the 4th ride home. He hadn't planned to. It came out of a silence that wasn't uncomfortable, which was itself unusual. Warren had spent decades filling silences with productivity. But Milo was reading his ocean book and the car was warm and Warren heard himself say, I have cancer. Milo looked up from the book. In my liver, Warren said. Stage 2. They caught it early enough, the doctors think. Surgery next month, then treatment. Milo was quiet for a moment. Are you scared? Yes, that makes sense, Milo said. Then he went back to his book. Warren didn't know why that was exactly what he needed. Not reassurance, not statistics, not someone telling him it would all be fine. Just that makes sense. An 11-year-old boy witnessing his fear without trying to fix it. My mom was sick, Milo said quietly a few minutes later, when she went away. That's what Grandma Bet told me later. She got sick and she couldn't take care of me, and she went somewhere to get better and she never came back. I'm sorry, Warren said. I used to think about her a lot, Milo said. I still do. I wonder if she thinks about me. He turned a page in the book. I hope she's okay, wherever she is. The matter-of-fact sadness of it hit Warren somewhere behind the sternum. He thought about Camille again. He thought about all the years he'd been somewhere, Singapore, London, a boardroom, a conference call, while she was growing up without him. He'd been physically present more than Milo's mother had, but he wasn't sure that made him better. Just a different kind of gone. He called Camille that night. She answered on the third ring, sounding surprised. They didn't call without scheduling it first. That was an unspoken rule that had developed over years of missed calls and voicemails that went unreturned too long. Dad, is everything okay? I need to tell you something, Warren said. I should have told you sooner. I've been putting it off. A pause. What is it? He told her about the diagnosis. He heard her sharp intake of breath, the silence that followed, and then something he hadn't expected, the way her voice cracked when she said, Dad, why didn't you call me when you found out? Because I didn't know how, he said, and that was the truest thing he'd said out loud in years. They talked for an hour and 40 minutes. He couldn't remember the last time they'd talked for more than 10. She told him she was coming out, not for the surgery, she was coming before. She wanted to be there, and he started so it wasn't necessary and stopped himself, because he was trying to be honest now, and the honest answer was that he wanted her there very much. He told her about Milo before he hung up. An 11-year-old, she said. He gave me his last granola bar, Warren said, on the sidewalk. For no reason, just because. Camille was quiet for a moment. Then she said, very softly, Dad, that's the most you've ever sounded like yourself. He didn't know what she meant at first. Then he thought he did. The thing about Grandma Bet was that she was not at all what Warren had expected. He'd imagined, without meaning to, someone frail and soft-spoken, someone worn down by difficulty into something small. Bet Calloway was 67 years old, 5'2", with silver locks and reading glasses on a beaded chain, and the particular stillness of a woman who had decided long ago exactly how much nonsense she was willing to tolerate, which was very little. She met him at the door of the apartment on a Saturday morning when Milo had told her a man named Warren was coming to talk to her. She looked Warren up and down once, and he had the distinct sensation of being assessed. You're the man from the steps, she said. Yes, ma'am. Milo says you've been driving him home. I have. Why? It was a fair question. Warren had asked himself the same thing a dozen times. Because he gave me something when I needed it, he said, and I'd like to help in return if you'll let me. Bet looked at him for another long moment. Then she stepped aside and let him in. The apartment was small and clean and full of things that mattered. Photographs on the walls, a crocheted blanket on the couch, a bowl of apples on the kitchen table, a stack of Milo's library books by the door. It smelled like coffee and something baking. They sat at the kitchen table and Bet poured coffee without asking if he wanted any, which he did. My daughter left him with me when he was 4, Bet said. She said it the way people say things they've said many times, factually without resentment, but also without pretending. It didn't cost anything. She had a disease she couldn't beat. She tried. She spent 2 years in and out of treatment, and then she decided she couldn't keep putting Milo through the uncertainty, so she left him somewhere stable and she disappeared. I get a call every couple of years. She's alive. That's all I know. Warren held his coffee cup. Does Milo know? He knows she's sick. He knows she loves him. That's enough for now. Bet looked at him steadily. He doesn't need the whole complicated truth at 11. He needs to feel safe and know he matters. I can give him those 2 things. He's remarkable, Warren said, and he meant it completely. He is, Bet agreed. He's been remarkable since he was 4 years old. He cried for 3 nights after she left, and then on the 4th morning he came to the kitchen and asked if I had any cereal, and he ate it, and we went to the library, and that was that. She shook her head slightly. Kids have a resilience adults have forgotten how to use. They talked for 2 hours. Warren told her about the cancer. He found it easier to say now each time, as though the word was losing some of its power the more it was spoken aloud. He told her about his daughter coming from Portland, about the surgery scheduled for the following month, about the way his life had looked before Milo sat down next to him on those steps. "What did it look like?" Bet asked. "Like a very full schedule," Warren said, "and not much else." Bet nodded slowly. "People build those," she said. "Schedules and portfolios and square footage. They build them up, and then one day something shakes the whole tower, and they have to decide what they actually want underneath all of it." "What do you want underneath all of it?" Warren asked. She smiled for the first time. It rearranged her face entirely, softened the steadiness into something warmer. "I've got it," she said. "He's in the other room reading about anglerfish." The surgery was 6 weeks later. Camille flew in from Portland 4 days before and stayed in the guest room of Warren's house, which she had never slept in before. He'd bought the house after she was grown and gone, a fact neither of them had ever directly addressed. She came downstairs early on the first morning, and they ate breakfast together at the kitchen island, and it was awkward for exactly 12 minutes. And then it wasn't. She was, he realized, a person he didn't know nearly well enough. She was funny in the dry, sideways way that crept up on you. She cried at commercials, but not at movies. She made very good scrambled eggs. She had opinions about everything, and the confidence to state them plainly, and he recognized in her something he recognized in himself, and for once the recognition felt like something to be glad about rather than warned against. "I'm sorry," he said to her on the third morning. They were sitting on the back porch with coffee, watching the November yard. She looked at him. "For what specifically?" "For Singapore," he said. "For the quarterly reports. For the birthday cards I sent a day late, and the plays I missed and the Thanksgivings I—" He stopped. "For all of it. For making you send me gift cards because you didn't know what else to get me, because I was never there long enough for you to know what I liked." Camille was quiet for a long time. "I knew what you liked," she said finally. "You liked winning. You liked numbers that moved the right direction. You liked restaurants where you didn't need to look at the menu." She paused. "I sent gift cards because it felt safer than being disappointed again." The word again landed exactly where she meant it to. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," Warren said. "I'm just—" He stopped again. "I'm telling you the truth. I missed it. I missed you. I made choices I can't take back, and I'm telling you the truth about that, because a kid on a sidewalk showed me what it looks like to just give someone what they need, with no calculation attached. And I've been trying to learn how to do that." Camille looked at him for a moment. Then she said, "You're going to have to teach me how to make scrambled eggs that good." He laughed. It surprised him. Surprised both of them. He hadn't laughed in weeks. "Deal," he said. "The surgery went well." Warren's surgeon used the word successful twice and cautiously optimistic once, which in medical language Warren had learned to translate as good news, but stay humble. There would be follow-up treatments. There would be scans every 3 months for the next 2 years. There would be a new way of counting time, not quarters and fiscal years, but scans and appointments, and the particular gratitude of ordinary Tuesdays. Milo visited him in the hospital. Bet drove him. They came on a Thursday afternoon, and Milo stood at the foot of the hospital bed with his backpack and his newest library book, about bioluminescence this time, deep-sea creatures that generated their own light, and he looked at Warren in the hospital bed with all the wires and monitors and said, "You look weird." "Thank you," Warren said. "Do you feel better?" "Not yet, I will." Milo nodded. Then he came around to the side of the bed and put the library book on Warren's bedside table. "You can borrow this," he said. "It's good, it has pictures." Warren picked it up. Full-color photographs of creatures that lived in total darkness, anglerfish, vampire squid, creatures that glowed in colors the human eye rarely saw. He turned a page and looked at a photograph of a dragonfish, its body lit from within, moving through black water. "It grows its own light," Milo had said that first day in the car. "In the dark, where nothing else can see, it just glows. By itself." Warren looked at the boy standing at his bedside, the gap between his front teeth, the sneakers new ones now, the right size, because Warren had asked Betta to let him help, and she'd considered it for a week and then said yes. The same direct, careful look he'd given Warren that first afternoon on the steps, deciding whether he was safe. "Thank you," Warren said. "For the book, you can keep it," Milo said. "I finished it." I mostly have it memorized anyway. Camille was standing in the corner of the room. She'd been quiet since Milo and Bet arrived, watching, which was something she did, Warren had learned, before deciding how to feel about a person. She watched Milo set the book on the table, and she watched Warren's face when he picked it up, and something resolved in her expression. Later, in the hallway, while Warren was resting and Milo was explaining bioluminescence to the nurses at the station, Camille stood next to Bet and said quietly, "He's going to want to help, my dad, with Milo, with school, with whatever's needed. I just want to say, he means it. He's not performing it." Bet looked at her. "How do you know?" "Because performing was what he was good at before," Camille said. "This is different. He's slower. He thinks before he speaks. He looks people in the eye instead of past them." She paused. "He's learning something. I can tell because it's making him uncomfortable and he's not stopping." Bet was quiet for a moment. "Your father," she said, "cried when Milo showed him his school project about the Pacific Ocean. Did Milo tell you that?" "No." Milo said he didn't make a big deal of it. He just handed your father a paper towel and kept talking about the Mariana Trench. Betty smiled slightly. "That's when I decided your father was all right." Spring came slowly that year, the way spring comes after a hard winter, not all at once but in degrees. A warm afternoon here, crocuses pushing up through the last gray snow there, the sense of the world remembering something it had temporarily forgotten. Warren went to Milo's school science fair in March. Milo's project was about deep-sea bioluminescence. He had a trifold board with photographs and diagrams, and a small diorama he'd made from clay and glow-in-the-dark paint that showed the layers of the ocean from sunlight zone to midnight zone. His presentation had been rehearsed enough that it didn't sound rehearsed, which is the best kind. He won second place. He was not satisfied with second place, which Warren found encouraging. The first place project was about volcanoes, Milo explained in the car afterward. He was in the back seat, holding his second place ribbon without looking at it. "Volcanoes are fine, but the ocean is more important than volcanoes." "Tell that to the judging panel," Camille said from the passenger seat. "I tried," Milo said. "They seemed pretty pro-volcano." Warren drove and didn't say anything. He was thinking about Camille in the front seat. She'd flown back for the science fair, which was not a thing she'd mentioned planning and which she'd explained when he pointed this out by saying she'd had miles to use. He was thinking about Betty in the back seat next to Milo, reading glasses pushed up on her forehead, asking follow-up questions about anglerfish with genuine interest. He was thinking about how a morning 9 months ago had contained a biopsy result and a stone in his chest and a sidewalk step 11-year-old boy with half a granola bar and 2 big sneakers. He thought about how he had been before that morning, the full schedule, the quiet apartment, the quarterly reports, the years of Camille's childhood he'd given to spreadsheets. He thought about what Betty had said at her kitchen table. One day something shakes the whole tower, and you have to decide what you actually want underneath all of it. He knew what he wanted. He kept driving. The April light came through the windshield in long golden bars. Milo was explaining to Betty why the anglerfish's light was more sophisticated than any human technology. Camille was listening, asking questions in that careful, interested way she had that he recognized now as a trait of his he was glad she'd kept. "Warren," Milo said suddenly from the back seat. "Yeah, can we get food? I'm hungry. I haven't eaten since the granola bar at lunch." Warren caught Betty's eye in the rearview mirror. She was trying not to smile. "Yeah," Warren said. "We can get food. Somewhere good," Milo added. "Not somewhere where you don't look at the menu." Camille made a sound that was almost a laugh. Bet gave up on not smiling. Warren drove them somewhere good. Outside the window, the city moved past in the long gold light of an April evening, and the world had in it, unexpectedly, improbably, after everything, exactly what all of them needed.